People's Movement, the beginning voices of the gay movement were rising, and more, because they showed that there was truth on the scaffolds. Hands out, there was truth on those scaffolds. And then, as proof to what Dr. King said, we know through painful experience, I'm repeating you, Ava, where are you at? There you are, I'm repeating you. We know that through painful experience, the freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. They don't knock on the door and say, what do you need, right? They don't say that. It is something that has to be demanded by the oppressor. The Detroit riot had opened opportunities for poor kids like me to go to college. I was 16, and every morning I was bused 30 miles outside of the city to an all-white high school. I took my first philosophy course, and on the first day of class, this white, radical, long-haired, bell-bottom wearing hippie type of professor stood up and asked a question that made me, come on, pick up my sand, my grain of sand. He asked me, do you want power or do you want influence? And will you be more effective in the system or out of it? And I knew he was talking about that riot mode stuff. And I want you to know what I chose. I chose influence. I chose to work within the system. And like my grandfather and Lowell and King and so many others, I became a social justice warrior of my time. You see, the lessons from a line of a poem, the family story of a roommate, and my lived experience shaped my truth forever on the scaffold. And what today, success, equity, and community, I think is something that is important to all of us. Can I spend a few of my last minutes updating Dr. King's dream and giving you some instructions on how to, hands out, sway the scaffold in your time? Can I do that? Yes. See, you followed directions. You didn't have to say what. You said what? Yes. I didn't hear you. Yes. All right, I'm going to do it. And maybe, as a hint, in doing so, hands out, you might pick up your grain of sand of activism. And I give you the answer to what Dr. King talked about in his 67 speech. Where do we go from here? Are you ready? All right, here are the instructions. Let's begin with success. Use the power of reflection. What did I say? Use the power of reflection. That's right. Reflection is historical, it's social, and it's personal. How did humanity, nation, colleges, and even you get to where we are today? What are the wrongs on the throne that you have to face, right? How and who helped you get there, wherever you got to? The traditional scaffold is the temporary structure that helps the builders, hands up, get higher, get higher, get higher. That's what a scaffold does. Somebody got you there. Reflect on who that was in your life. And those spaces are physical, and also those spaces are about ideals. Success, repeat after me, success without integrity is not using my intellectual GPS very well. Thank you, because guess what? Education is not neutral. It's a privilege. You don't have to repeat. You want to repeat that? Education is not what? Neutral. It's a what? Privilege. Number 2, you heard the first one. Stop whining about the privileges you have. Nah. Stop it. Instead, ask people to ask you how you're using them. How are you using them? And as you stay physically and mentally healthier as a learner, take advantage of the educational opportunities that you have. Keep one foot in the real world while you're in this academic bubble. And when you sit in your classrooms, make every page you turn and every book you read important. When you participate in the uncomfortable discussions, think about, hands up, picking up your grain and sharing it with somebody else. This is how you build on Dr. King's dream. You stay awoke in the revolution of whose time? Yours. Be aware of the choices that you make and the power that comes with them. Learn to be who you want to be and value your own practice. I'm not asking you to be like my generation. I'm asking you to be like your generation, right? Second, equity. Here's an instruction for you. Repeat after me. Stop minoritizing people. Now let me tell you what that is, because no one is born a minority. There is a real historical, political, and social process. Hands up. I think it's called isms, right? You know them. Racism, you know them. We're not going to go over all of them. There are isms that make us perceive other people as minorities. Do not minoritize anyone without doing your homework to learn and understand their history, our nation's records, and who are the beneficiaries of that history. Because if you don't, then you're going to minoritize other people. You understand? Don't do that. Having friends that don't look like you is not enough. It's not enough for Dr. King, and it will not be enough for you. Just bringing people to the table and adding their voices, hands out, that's a diversity that you stir. You got that? Oh, it's so cute. It smells wonderful. It'll bake great in the pie. Hello? That won't make any kinds of structural changes. Diversity is about shifting resources, decentering decision makers, decentering curriculums to have more than one voice of knowledges from other people around the world, and increasing access for all. Equity is work of the, come on, imagination, because somebody else has to have a dream for their time. Number 2, use the power of questions. Say that. Use the power of questions. Don't ask what you don't know. Please do. Ask what you don't know. Safe spaces without brave participation is half measures. Do you understand that? It's just a half measure. It might be cute and sexy, but it doesn't wash. People can see through it, right? I want you to applaud yourself when you hold back on your white fragility. Applaud yourself when you hold back on that feeling like punching someone out physically and intellectually, because this is the 3rd time this week they have done another microaggression against you. Applaud yourself as you maintain your own despair when a person you love, Grandpa, Auntie Mary, your mama, or an institution that you believe in, or a principle that you see has been compromised, that it misses the mark. That's the Latin word for the definition of sin, missing the mark. And remember, Dr. King reminds us that we can learn to manage our despair and hope. As he said, with difficult days ahead and in the struggle to join for peace, for justice and peace, I will not yield to despair. This is what he said, and we don't have time, but he said, he said, I will sing, we shall overcome. We don't have time to do that, but you hear it in your head. You hear it in your head. And finally, recognition of your communities. You notice I said that with a plural, communities, and serve them. Those inside the campus right here, those inside of the nation out there, and those in your heart. Let me tell you something. The simultaneity of service is the cornerstone to activism. You gotta know how to operate in multiple places. And as we all have a reminder of that, because our first community is what we call family. How many people were in a family? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up. Put the other one up. Because in family, we learned the best we could, did we not? They weren't perfect. We learned the best we could. And out of that situation, educational scaffolding was born as an idea, where we put new ideas on top of old ideas. Isn't that right? So as you pick up that grain of sand, come on, pick it up. I want you to remember that community sits in a geographical space where people live, where people create and pass on cultures to young people, and where they bury their ancestors. The stewards of this land where Beloit is located are the Ho-Chunk, the Potawatomi, the Sac and the Fox peoples, who, by the way, are in Iowa, and they left us a spiritual legacy. It goes like this: we, repeat, we are all relations. We are all relations. And that legacy is in tandem to Dr. King's message when he talked about heritage is sacred. Remember that what's list? Remember that what's list we just did? Yes? We can't wait is one of the famous speeches of Dr. King in 1964. We have to get into our communities and we have to do the work. And let me tell you, we don't have time for apologies about where we were born. Whether hands over here, it was all white spaces and I never saw no people like you, or we're all black, brown, and Asian spaces where people were pretty pissed off and excluded. No apologies by the legacy of your family, whether they were racist or whether their family was in resistance. No apologies about how you might not ever have to write a letter from a Birmingham jail like Dr. King. But you can write. Use your pen. Make a statement. Because that's what Dr. King would have wanted. So I want to end my remarks by saying, these are instructions from Dr. King, and one of my favorite set of instructions comes from his 1976 speech, Beyond Vietnam. Here is where he linked the struggles of poverty, poverty, with the struggles of militarism and war, with the struggles of the highest ideals of America, and particularly our educational system. Because he thought of America as an ongoing experiment. Therefore, truth forever on the scaffold, you can ask it that another way. Repeat after me. Why would I do all this? Lowell did it because he lived in a time in which there was political polarization over slavery. Dr. King did it because he lived in a time where there was political polarization over racial segregation. And we live in a time where there is political polarization and we have a planet to save. And maybe, repeat after me, it might just be the human condition that we will have to always be in watch and on guard, right? Thank you. But the evils of society or the wrongs on the throne are still here. So I would ask, as you reflect on these instructions of my remarks, to practice what Dr. King left us, that there is a dangerous unselfishness when you're involved in change, because change is intentional. And when you do that, please do it from a very powerful place called love. Thank you very much.
It's going to be hard following that. Good thing this is brief. For those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Atira Coleman. I'm the Associate Dean of the Student Success, Equity, and Community Office, and we all thank you so much for coming out this evening. This evening, each speaker has provided a connection between the values of Dr. Martin Luther King and the Office of Student Success, Equity, and Community. And while some may view those as three separate missions and as fragmented, all three of them are needed to truly empower our students to be agents of social change. Dr. Martin Luther King warned that while the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically, education which stops with efficiency may prove to be the greatest menace to society. That the most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason, but with no morals. The mission of our office is to promote the development of a critical lens, as well as equity for all members of the college community through fostering an inclusive campus climate and enhancing the understanding and connections within diverse communities. Now, that takes work. That entails reforming and sometimes dismantling problematic institutional structures. That requires centering inclusive excellence, advocating for social justice, and nurturing a climate that instills diversity and equity as not only necessary, but an asset. It is great to be inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King's messages, but we also need to be just as motivated to implement his strategies. To accept and value everyone, appreciate our common humanity, and understand that our multiple differences are the cornerstone to academic preparation, professional excellence, and distinction. So I welcome you all today to buy in and join us in our goals for this campus. Now, this has been an excellent program, and I've learned so much and been inspired. And I would like to thank everyone who helped to share that message in a variety of ways today and recognize them as agents in this necessary work that must be done to fully promote the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I would like to present a plaque to the contributors of our program, beginning with the wonderful thing that I had to follow, Dr. Scott. For her wonderful and inspiring contribution to Beloit College. I would like to continue that with the wonderful Regina Hendrix. Come on. Who gave us a wonderful and inspiring musical performance. Continuing with our wonderful and very inspiring high school senior, Dashawn Isabell, for his excellent, his excellent message to us all. Yes, thank you so much. All right, and then, that wonderful spoken word performance, Kaela Hadaway. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. Then we had three amazing Emcees and speakers tonight. And so one for Ava Smith. The wonderful Ms. Tesfay. And last but certainly not least, Jerry Jones, who gave us that great introduction. It's been a wonderful MC. So in the spirit of equitable acknowledgement, I'd like to point out that not all activists are always on the front lines and can be seen. This program today has been, wonderfully presented by all of the wonderful people who got plaques. But the person that really made all of this possible was Daksha Howard. And yes, come on up, Daksha. Not only for tonight, but Daksha has been an asset to this college for decades. And I'm going to say that again just to emphasize that she has been an asset to this college for decades. and who has been such an influential contributor to equity and inclusion programming on this campus, specifically MLK Convocations, for all your hard work and loyalty. Thank you so much, Dasha. I will now turn it back over to Ava for our closing remarks.
Thank you to everybody who helped plan and coordinate this and all the speakers, the wonderful speakers that we had today. Thank you everyone for coming to the MLK Convocation and joining us in the life and legacy of Dr. King. It's a shame that we only have a day to celebrate his legacy officially, but hopefully you all are able to take away what has been said and performed today to continue to live his legacy through your actions and words, thus continuing the celebration of his life every day. Please join us at the reception in Pearson's Moore Lounge. If you don't know where that is, like me, because I don't know the names of lounges on campus, Moore Lounge is on the second floor of Pearson's, which is like that way. Yes, thank you so much.